Well, good morning, everyone. It's me, Robert Phoenix, and we are back for another edition of the Astro Weather. Man, speaking of weather, it got really intense last night here, like super intense. Your Uranus and Taurus is just bringing the thunderclap last night, and it was so intense. Let me tell you how intense it was. It was so intense that we had a lightning storm and it hit a tree right outside my house and nearly split the tree in half. Like there is a huge part of the tree now that has just been amputated from itself, right down like a third of the trunk, and all these massive branches and smaller branches are just sitting there like a fallen god. It's a big oak tree. It's been here for a really long time. And I talked to the owner of the house last night, briefly via chat, and she said that it had happened once before when her grandparents lived here. She wasn't even born at that time. That's how old this place is. It goes all the way back to the 1930s. It's that old. And it happened then, but it was just, I don't know, 20 feet away from the house, 20, 30 feet away from the house, maybe at that. Just really intense. And you could feel the electromagnetic density just begin to accumulate in the air prior to it happening. The skies got really dark, and I think we had winds up to 50 miles per hour. And I thought to myself, well, maybe it was the wind that amputated this tree, but I don't think so. I don't think the wind would torque that amount of tension. I actually have a video of it. I'm going to play it on my show today. I'll show people what this tree looks like. In any case, heavy weather, right? Heavy weather. And let's get into the astro weather for today. You know, oftentimes when there's a storm, it definitely clears the air, right? Hopefully, maybe that's the transformative quality of the storm in clearing the air. Funny story yesterday. I could kind of see my own. I can see my own astro weather sometimes in the interactions in my life. And a lot of times I'm just here and I'm working with clients. That's really most of my reality, to be honest with you. But every now and then I venture out into the world, and it's always an interesting journey. Let's put it that way. So yesterday I was at the UPS store because I had to have this document scanned and then delivered via email. And I was a little edgy because I'd already gone to another place. I have a printer here, but it doesn't have a scanner. I just wanted a basic printer just to print shit out, which it does. It works fine for that. But in order to print and scan, or scan and print, or scan and send, it doesn't really do the job. So I went to this place in town, and they did it, and then it was sent, and then I started communicating with the person who I had it sent to, and she kept telling me, well, I didn't get it. And so I went into my email client, and my email client would not allow me to send it because the file was corrupted. And I'm like, okay, that's a what the fuck moment, right? And it's really hot out. It's like super hot out, 104 degrees, and it's a torpid. It's one of those, it's a heat that makes you feel stupid. That's how hot it was. Your IQ just drops by about 10 points the minute you step out of the car. So I wasn't in any great mood to have to deal with this again. So I found another place that would capably scan the document or documents and then capably send them. So I went there, And there's this, so I'm trying to tell this woman what I need to have done. And she's doing one of these things. Like if you had somebody look at you like that, well, what would you think? How would you perceive that? So I asked her, I said, what's with this? What's with the look? What am I, an alien or something? Come up here. And it kind of like shocked her out of her whatever she was doing. And she said, well, you're in a good mood. And I said, look, I'm just trying to tell you what I'm doing here with this document. And this look you're shooting me, it looks like I'm from another planet, like you've never, or I'm speaking in Romanian or something. And then this young guy jumped in, and I'm glad he did, because he knew what the fuck he was doing. And then he came over and he like sorted it out like that. So I could see my Astro Weather in the interaction. Yeah, it was kind of like me feeling the storm. I could feel the storm coming, and the storm certainly wanted to break inside of me first. Right, Jasper? Well, look who's here. Look who's here, the Astro Cat. You are not afraid of that thunder, are you? No, you're not, because you're a brave lion cat. You can come over here if you want. Yeah. All right, let's get into the Astro Weather. We have a change in the weather, an absolute change in the weather. Sun, 0 Cancer. Look at that. Juno, 0 Cancer. Woo. Yeah. It's a good day. It's a good day for new beginnings. Birth. Ooh. How'd you like them apples? I've been pimping out this aspect for a while, and it's on the money now. 0, 0. And with Saturn here, long-term commitment. Long-term commitment. Now you may have to sort through some of your reasons or your actualizations. Not your actualizations, what would be the word? It's still a little early for me, but it'll pop in my head. Justification. You have to talk through your justifications of why you should or shouldn't do something, or set out on a new course of action. Face your fear. Face your fear here. At 0 Cancer, it's a magical degree. In the secret language of birthdays, the 0 degree of Cancer is on the cusp of magic, right? Because the summer solstice is the Midsummer Night's Dream. And when you read Shakespeare and you read the telling of the tale of the Midsummer Night's Dream with Prospero, it's filled with magic. It's Shakespeare's paean to the supernatural, the natural, the supernatural world, and the world of elemental forces and magic. It's very interesting. And one of the renditions of that play was directed by, if I'm not mistaken, John Cassavetes. And so it's kind of a weird movie. Raul Julia plays a magical goat farmer. And I think Raul Julia is kind of a stand-in for the devil in that movie, or at least Pan. Anyway, it's a good day for new beginnings, as long as you can face your fear around them. And it's potent. This is potent energy with 0, 0 Cancer. It's to me, it's the best degree of Cancer, which is a sign that as it goes through the various degrees, becomes more and more diluted. So by the time you get to the 3rd decan of Cancer, you're in the Piscean decan, and it's really, really dispersive, right? So Mercury is at 20 Gemini, and we talked about this yesterday with the kind of the ongoing transit moving into square with Neptune. So this is a time where communications are, you have to pay closer attention to your communication. Like normally I don't take notes in life, but I'm going to take notes in life through this transit because I missed a important detail today. I thought my mother's caregiver was coming over this morning. It's naturally her morning to be here. And by the time it was 7:30 or 7:15, she wasn't here. I realized that, guess what? I hadn't taken notes. So you want to take notes with this Mercury Neptune. So don't let details slip through your fingers. If you blow off a receipt normally, and I know a lot of times I don't want to touch receipts because they've got phthalates in the receipts, right? And of course, it fucks with your testosterone and estrogen. So almost always, I don't, unless I need a receipt, I just say, here, take it. But this is one of those periods where you keep your receipts, take notes, because these are things you're going to have to lean on later with this Mercury Neptune square. You don't want to be left holding the bag and say, well, I thought we agreed upon this, or it's like, well, where did I say that? Well, you said it right here. And you don't have to be a complete, utter anal pain in the ass. But this is a time where I think it's important. Watch out for expenditures. We have this Jupiter-Pluto square, which I should have addressed probably a bit earlier on, but if not, I'll address it now. When you get into Jupiter-Pluto squares, there's expenditures. And moving in, oh, look who's here. Oh, come on over. Come on over. Yeah. What do you have to say to everybody? What do you have to say? Are you happy to be here? Are you happy to be here? You a big baby? Yeah. Let's give people a sense of your motor. If this is human design, he'd have a great motor. I bet you Jasper's like you're like a 4. You're a 4 something in human design. Maybe you're a 2-4. Maybe you're a 2-4 projector like me. Yeah. Anyway, sometimes you have to spend, right? And so this is one of those periods with the Jupiter-Pluto square where if you do have to spend, don't worry about it. Go ahead and make the expenditure, especially if it has to do with anything related to your household. So yesterday, I made a commitment to hire a housekeeper once a week. There's my Jupiter-Pluto square. Invest in that. The true note is at 2. It's really getting very close to 1. So we're going to go 2 here now, 2, 1, and then 0 Taurus. And then in July, we're off and running with the nodes in different signs. And boy, we have a lot ahead of us there. There's not a lot of air in the air today, as you can notice. It kind of matches an atmosphere that is dense and humid. We have a lot of fire and a lot of water. So when you combine the two of them, what do you get? You get steam. And it is definitely steamy out in these parts. Moon is in Leo today. Is that right? Yep, Moon's in Leo, and it's in conjunction with Mars. So there is a lot of impassioned feelings today, right? This gets back to yesterday. I mean, I was feeling that kind of Venus-Mars trigger, and especially Mars trigger on Uranus. It was just like my patience was really thin, really thin. And, UPS Karen staring over me with her bifocals, whatever. It just, sometimes I'm human. And I kind of snapped a little bit. Let's see what else. We have a lot of positions here with Chiron, Venus trine Chiron, Mars trine Chiron, and even the Moon trine Chiron. It's one of those days where I think there's strength and vulnerability, and realizing that you need, that you can't do everything, because Aries does everything. I'm just going to do it myself. I'll do it on my own. Don't worry about me. I'll just do it on my own. I'll get it done. Yeah, so I think there is some supportive energy towards that. And I also think that what is Leo really good for? Leo is really good for connecting into the heart and getting to the heart of the matter. So if you need assistance, whatever that is, if you need assistance today, this is a good time to say, guess what? I could use some help here, because it's not coming at a cost. Now, it may come to you in terms of a financial cost or material cost, but it's not a crisis, and you don't want to let it get to a crisis. Now, with the squares to Uranus, there could be a crisis, right? It could be precipitated, like, I just can't handle it. I can't handle it. So the energy becomes explosive. But if you can nip it in the bud and say, you know what, I need some help. Maybe the two aren't necessarily mutually exclusive. That you have the crisis, you know, I can't really handle this on my own. And so then you reach out, right? So the universe is amenable to reaching out. It's like, yeah, you're right. You can't handle it. Or, yeah, you could use some help. And, you know, I'm there, and I'm there with like a lot of different areas of my life, not just, you know, with my, you know, situation here at home, but even with my work, you know, and thinking about, you know, trying to find some assistance, you know, with just certain things, really the basic fundamental things like putting up graphics and, you know, things that content creators do. So I'm going to have to look into some of that. And I mean, even yesterday, I thought about, you know, like the idea of hiring a personal assistant so I can manage my affairs better. Anyway, and I know there's a lot of virtual assistants and stuff like that, but this is one of those periods where you can make changes. You can admit that you can't do everything on your own, and it's fine. And the cosmos will be very supportive of that arrangement. Ceres has moved into Libra and we'll be there for a minute. So what are we doing? We're nurturing relationships. We're nurturing bonds. We're nurturing commitments. We're nurturing agreements. And it's at the far end of the South Node. And eventually the two shall meet together as they collide in a great sort of moment of understanding the need for one another in our lives. It's not there yet. They're at opposite sides of the Libra spectrum here. But that's a very interesting, we have Juno changing signs, we have Ceres changing signs, and they're both like right in a tight trine with each other. So remember, I've been talking about starting something new, and Ceres is there as well. Ceres is like, come on, you know, here we go, nurture the new thing. And if you need to, get help, right? Find people that can do the things that you can't do. Nothing wrong with that. Okay, there you go. There's your astro weather. I hope you found it helpful. So today's the star of the day. Today was really an interesting process because there's a lot of fascinating people born on this day, some of whom I would love to really dive into their charts, but they don't have like a legit birth time. So one of them is the Da Vinci Code author, Dan Brown. Today is Dan Brown's birthday. And Dan Brown got embroiled in a suit with his ex-wife, claiming that a lot of that material was hers. Sorry, gotta laugh a little bit. But I looked at his chart. It's a weird chart. It's a very weird chart and not an easy chart. But because we don't have a birth time, rarely do I ever do a chart where I don't have a legit birth time. Another person born today, who to me is like one of the most fascinating people of the 20th century, is Pete Maravich, Pistol Pete Maravich. And Pete Maravich was, in my estimation, what, you know, you have these like kind of athletic titans in the 1960s and 70s, and to some extent the 60s and the 70s. And you have somebody like Jim Brown. Jim Brown is just an athletic titan. Muhammad Ali is an athletic titan. You have Will Chamberlain and athletic titan. And even Bruce Jenner, Caitlyn Jenner, an athletic titan. But Bruce Jenner was a tremendous, tremendous athlete. I mean, when he was in the decathlon in Montreal, he crushed it. I mean, he won almost every event, which is nearly unheard of in terms of decathlon competition. You had somebody like Mark Spitz, who won, what, 6 or 7 gold medals swimming. So there's this time of these titans, these athletic titans. And it's interesting that we're talking about the submarine, the Titan, right? But Pete Maravich would have to be added to that group because he could do things with a basketball that nobody else could do. He was the equivalent, like if you put Pete Maravich in today's NBA, he'd be a star, hands down. And they had no 3-point line when he played college basketball or pro basketball. I think at the end, when he might have been with the Celtics, when he was with the Celtics, they might have had a 3-point line. But if Pete Maravich had a 3-point line when he was playing, he would have been devastating. And not only that, but as a personality, he's very interesting. Like he gets into martial arts and becomes, a black belt. Then he got into UFOs, and he was really into health diets. And I think he became a vegetarian at one point. And then he really got into UFOs, and then eventually became a born-again Christian. And he stayed a born-again Christian until the end of his life. And the way he passed away was really fascinating. Like he was playing a scrimmage. It was like an amateur scrimmage at a college in California for some Christian association. And just before he was about to take to court, he collapsed and he died. And he had a heart attack. And when they did an autopsy on his body, one side of his heart was like twice the size of the other side of his heart. And Pete Maravich, for all intents and purposes, should not have been able to do the things that he did as an athlete with that kind of heart. He had a super enlarged aorta, and it was crazy. That's why I think he's really interesting. Other people born this day, this is I know I'm going on a little bit here, but we have a little bit of time. We hit the trifecta today with politicians. Today is Dianne Feinstein's birthday. Today is Elizabeth Warren's birthday. And today is our star of the day's birthday. And that would be Adam Schiff. Now, there's another person I want to cover today because of their life and their chart. It's a very compelling day. Today's Meryl Streep's birthday. Today is John Dillinger's birthday. So there's a lot of, today's like a rogues gallery in a lot of ways. But, no matter what you think of any of these people, once you drill down and kind of look at their stories, they're all super interesting, including Feinstein. And even Elizabeth Warren. Like, Elizabeth Warren is the ultimate Karen. And she's like elected again and again and again. And like, my God, how does this happen? It's like fucking Groundhog Day. Anyway, let's take a look at Adam Schiff's chart. He got censured yesterday. And I didn't know that, but he got censured finally. And this is a guy that was in charge of the Jan 6 committee. He was in charge of the impeachment committee. Like, he has been just balls to the wall, anti-Trump for his party. So he got censured. Adam Schiff has a hell of a chart. I ain't gonna lie here. This guy's got grand trines that intersect and give you the Star of David effect, and he's got a what do you call it? A magic rectangle, right? He's got a magic rectangle, and he's got 2 grand trines. So what's interesting about Adam Schiff, and when you see a chart like this is a guy. It's not to me. I'm not surprised that he would be tasked with these positions of leadership inside of the Democratic Party. would it be fair to say that if he was on the right side, this guy could do a tremendous amount of good? And I would say the answer to that would be yes. But he's not on the right side of things. He's just not. And a lot of people believe he is. And with his chart, he's able to carry that conviction all the way through. I mean, he's got a Mars, Pluto, Jupiter grand trine. And Pluto in Virgo, Mars in Taurus, and Jupiter right at the end of Sagittarius. That's like a really powerful grand trine. And then he has the Sun, Neptune, and Chiron grand trine as well. So they're interpenetrating. And the magic rectangle allows him to just get out of shit easily. But the thing that he shares with a lot of politicians, and I've noticed this about politicians, and he has his Sun in the 12th house. So you don't really, you see Adam Schiff. I mean, even his Cancer rising face, right? It kind of looks like the moon. He's got that kind of ovally round face. It looks like the moon. And he has Mercury in the first house. So he's articulate, right? The guy's articulate. But you don't really know him. Nobody really knows him. And if you're a politician, and if you have enough planets in other parts of the chart, which obviously he does, particularly that absolutely stubborn Mars at 1 Taurus, trining Pluto, this dude's got staying power, right? And that's what you'll know him by. You'll know him also by, how he talks and his articulation and speech. But anybody that's got like Sun in the 12th house. So Joe Biden has Sun in the 12th house. And what's her name? Hillary Clinton has Sun in the 12th house. These are all backroom dealers. They're consummate deal makers. They don't mind having the Sun in the 12th house. They really don't. It's the best cover for a politician in general. So where would this censure be in his chart? Well, we have Saturn going through his 9th house, which is an interesting transit. And he has Chiron there. So Saturn's at 7 degrees and kind of just, off that conjunction with Chiron. So he does have this Pluto opposition. So like he's born in the same year that I was born in. I hate to say that, but he is going to be going through the Saturn-Pluto opposition. And somebody like him and his chart, that opposition literally is opposition, right? It's opposition from the other side. So he's going to get that. For somebody who just has a Saturn-Pluto opposition, it's an interesting opposition because it happens at an age where you're thinking, oh, gee, well, what am I doing now? Right? What am I doing? Where am I going? What's the meaning of my life? And if you've been around a little bit, this is like the third iteration of the Saturn-Pluto opposition. It's not like it just happens at a certain age. It happens at stages. It's every 30 years. So you would have it depending on your age, depending on where Saturn is. So for Schiff, he had the first Saturn-Pluto opposition not long. He's Saturn in Capricorn, right? So from here to here, 16 Aquarius, that's 3 years. And then you basically have, another year and a half. So at the age of 4.5, he would have had the Saturn-Pluto opposition. I had it, and that's when, as a kid, I moved, right? We moved all the way across country from New Jersey to California. So Saturn-Pluto oppositions can rearrange your world. And clearly, right now, my world's getting rearranged a little bit with the Saturn-Pluto opposition as well. But that could be part of the censure in some ways. We would look at Saturn to get a handle on it. Saturn squaring his moon would be another aspect that would qualify as the censure. And that didn't happen last week, but it happened last night. And I guess they can't use him now. Now, people say that the censure is merely like window dressing, like it really doesn't do anything. If it didn't do anything, then why put it into play, right? It's got to do something. It will diminish his power in some ways. And it's interesting. He talks about how yesterday, when it passed, that Donald Trump threatened all the people who didn't vote for it to primary them. Well, if that's true, and they changed their vote based on that, then Trump has a lot more power than the media or we, the people, might think he has. Like there are people who think that, based on all these crises and catastrophes, that Trump is being neutered, and basically that's not true, right? If there's a takeaway, that's not true because people change their votes. And what's interesting is that when Schiff talks about it, he talks about going into the well, and the well is this area in front of the Congress that people congregate, and so all the Democrats came into the well, and then they started to berate Kevin McCarthy. And the symbolism of the well is really interesting because when I think of water in astrology, and by the way, if you downloaded my astrology class, you would know about this. But Cancer and Scorpio and Pisces, they all represent water, but they represent different types of water. Cancer is what? It is well water because it's near the home, right? So wells, streams, watering holes, and ponds. Those are all very Cancerian forms of water. The Scorpionic forms of water are extremely deep lakes and rushing rivers. And then, of course, Pisces rules all the oceans and all the seas and all water, period, end of story. So it was interesting for him to talk about being in the well. It's a very Cancerian kind of environment for him to be in. He has that Mercury-Mars square, so he's argumentative. He's very argumentative. He's got a very powerful chart. There's a reason why this guy has been able to stick around. And again, can we separate the chart out from the person? Say, well, if he just had a different orientation, then he could use that superpower of the chart for a higher cause. Maybe not. Maybe this is just the way it is, right? Maybe that's what's going on, and the chart makes the person. And with all the Cancerian stuff and the 12th house and the ability to do backroom deals and trade in on a sense of earnestness and trust, which is really what Cancer rising would kind of trade in on. Maybe he just found the most expedient way to get ahead and have his, have everything met, right? And there's, a lot of dark rumors around Adam Schiff, that this is a guy that's involved in, stuff that's related to, Adreno and other things. And, he's in LA where, it is really the devil's playground. And, maybe his chart, the 12th house, has something to do with that as well. And even these hard aspects with Mars, like the Mars-Neptune opposition or the Mars-Mercury square, he's a disagreeable fellow, no doubt, and maybe using power in a way that is not in his best interest or others. Mars-Neptune opposition. So there's your star of the day, Adam Schiff. Now, there was another person I wanted to talk about today because this is a very interesting kind of, I wouldn't say it's a conundrum, but an exploration of a dynamic in astrology that might be, today is Charles Lindbergh III's birthday as well. Baby Lindbergh. I thought about doing that, but that's just rough. That's just rough. Maybe I'll talk about that today on the show. Okay, let me go here. Let me go home. Because there's somebody I do want to talk about today. In addition to all of this, And it is the comedian Freddie Prinze. Today is his birthday. And let me show you his chart. I didn't know this about Freddie Prinze, by the way, but Freddie Prinze was not Puerto Rican. Freddie Prinze was Hungarian. And it kind of blew my mind when I read that. It's like he was Hungarian. He lived in Spanish Harlem, and he was beaten up because he wasn't Puerto Rican, or I don't know. I'm not sure the Dominicans had showed up yet. So he became Puerto Rican. And I thought to myself, okay, everybody thinks you're Puerto Rican, and you have a TV series called Chico and the Man, and all of your material is based on being Puerto Rican. Like, wouldn't in some ways that lead to imposter syndrome? And I looked at his chart, and I'm thinking, fuck yes, he's got a Mercury Uranus conjunction. So he's quick, like he's got a quick mind, and he's got a good memory, but Mercury and Uranus square Neptune. So I've talked about the Mercury Neptune square, and most people that have it, they don't outwardly lie. Some do. Some do. I would say that my clients, who I find to be very upright citizens with a high degree of character, I don't think they lie, but sometimes they lie to themselves. And that's what Freddie Prinze was doing. He was lying to himself. He couldn't embrace the fact that he wasn't Puerto. He couldn't embrace the fact that he was Hungarian. Like, it's like your Adam Schiff sort of existential question. Could he have been successful with his birth name, which is a weird birth name? It begins with an H. It doesn't sound even remotely Hispanic. But could he have been successful as a Hungarian comedian growing up in Spanish Harlem? That's a really interesting question. And even the Sun-Jupiter conjunction, it basically conflates his identity with the Sun-Jupiter conjunction. And you could tell he's got a drug problem too. Neptune in the 12th house, which I like as a placement. But the square with Uranus and Mercury, that's a heavy square. He was lying to himself. And he probably enjoyed the good life. He enjoyed being popular. He has Leo in the midheaven. But I think Pluto there, the 10th house, there's a price to pay for that. And I'm wondering if his profession killed him. What if he was just the Hungarian guy from Spanish Harlem who wound up becoming a mail carrier or a pilot, right? Would he have suffered the same fate? This is a very interesting chart and a very interesting dynamic and dilemma. And he has the true node in Capricorn. So, and it's in the 3rd house too, right? Which is Gemini's house. So he's going to split his identity. This is a fascinating chart and a fascinating study in somebody who ultimately chose a completely different identity, completely different racial component. And I've been doing this for a long time, and I know a lot about popular culture. And today's the first day I really looked at Freddie Prinze and realized, motherfucker's Hungarian. And I think that's where, with all the success, that he wound up not even being able to accept it, because deep down inside he was lying to himself and he was lying to others. That's what you call imposter syndrome. So there you go. Not a star of the day, but a bonus star of the day. Freddie Prinze. Okay, that brings us to the end today's Astro Weather, 40 minutes, but we got a lot in, right? Today was like a triple decker sandwich. Remember those triple decker sandwiches? I never bought one, by the way. I've never had one of those, but I would look at them on the menu and go, wow, that looks really good. There's a lot there. That's creative. Let's see. Let's talk about the sponsor of the show, True Ham Science. Let's go there, shall we? Let's go there. Let's get a little morning dose of hemp. I would love Chris to do a CBD coffee. It'd be great. So here we go. If you want to get some hemp products, high quality, organically sourced hemp products, and keep a Main Street business alive and thriving, go to this website. I'll put the link here in the show. And all you got to do is spend $100 or more and type in 15 MINS. It's 15 MINS, and you will get free product and you won't regret it. Trust me, you won't regret it. If you spend $150 or more, you're going to get free shipping. So it's going to knock a few dollars off your bill. And there's always a 30-day money-back guarantee. It's the only sponsor I have for the show. So, and I believe 100% in Chris's products. They're high quality. You can ask anybody in chat who's used the products, and they'll stand by them. So there you go. There's our sponsor, True Ham Science. And please join us over on 15 Minutes of Flame. That's my website. And you bring up the graphic here so everybody can see it. And I think today we're gonna get into this submarine again. I was going to talk about these sports owners. I may save that for the Friday forecast and kind of do a deep dive into that area. A lot of turtles on the fence post. So 15 Minutes of Flame, and that's at 9:11 a.m. And you just go to my website right there. Come join us. We have a good chat and lots of interesting content that we uncover and surface and talk about. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for being here. Have a great day. Use your head in order to discern what's real, your heart, two-step what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix, and bye for now.